Sarah explained, the day before yesterday, Sarah was explaining on the best kind of Sati. That best kind of Sati means it is not a superficial kind of awareness. It is not just an ordinary awareness. This awareness or observation should be extremely or excessively observing onto the object. So this extremely or excessively observing on the object, Sarah explained it was shown in the word of patthana. Pa means it is to the objective field. To the objective field, your mind fix on it or close on it. And thana is you have firm fixation on that object. So when you are fixed, you are noting mind, noting on the object or objective field in a firm manner, or because of its continuity of awareness, should say as it is sustained. Sustained means because of the continuity of observation or awareness is present, that's why we have to say it as sustained. So whenever our mind focuses onto the object, then our mind peers on it and firmly holds on it. That means it is closely noting or observing on the object. So this way of observing extremely and piercing on it is called as the best kind of Sati. So why it is called as best kind is because our noting mind pierce or sink into that object as if it's plunged or sink into the object. So for example, like if we are noting the rising phenomenon and the noting mind, as if the noting mind sink into the rising phenomenon. Likewise to the falling phenomenon, if our mind fix and observe on the falling phenomenon, it sticks together and piercing and knowing the nature of this falling phenomenon. So in that way, that awareness of piercing or immersing into that object continuously is called the best kind of awareness or having the best kind of Sati. So this way of awareness or excessively sustained on the object it should be continuity. So this kind of Sati is extremely or excessively best kind of Sati. So to that extent, Sarah have explained the other day, and Sarah will continue on this topic. The object, we have to rush and plunge into the object, so much so that from our noting mind, as if we are holding on it, then our mind is holding on the object with rushing into it. So in that way, we have to note it, and that noting should be sustained. But Sarah found that although the yogis are in the center for already 2 weeks, 2 weeks mean if they are really attentive and noting, they should have a good stamina in their noting. They should have a good stamina in mindfulness. To attain this good stamina of noting and mindfulness mean one should practice in systematic or methodical manner, and one should practice in precise way as guided by. But most of them cannot follow in this manner. So that's why Sarah says all the teachers, whenever they assess to the meditators who are able to note as guided by the teachers with due respect, and if they are systematic, the teachers like them and the teachers are happy and appreciate to the work. So that's why as much as the teachers are teaching them precisely and concise how to note it properly, so they will like and appreciate to these kind of meditators if they can follow attentively. So in the line of our meditational practice, just like the runner will run in a rush as he is aiming to reach to the destination. So likewise, as the yogi, we have to note in a rush with plunging mind or piercing mind. So as for the yogis, although they have spent 2 weeks in the meditation center, but not much have changed. So that's why Sarah liked to encourage to the yogis that as the teachers are giving a proper and systematic guidance and encouragement, as much as they come to understand, they have to practice accordingly. If they are practicing accordingly and precisely, then the teachers will appreciate the work. Sayadaw like to elaborate about an incident Sayadaw experienced as a meditation teacher about 35 years ago. About 35 years ago, as Sayadaw was working as a meditation teacher in the main Mahasi Center, there was a man, his age was about 60, and he came from Delta part of Burma, and as he was a man who was well-to-do financially, and although he came from a small town, his life was comfortable and at ease. And also, as he was already about 60 years old, then when he came to take up this meditational practice, in the beginning, his mind never dwelled in the meditational practice. He was looking here and there. He would talk about, and he had been fidgeting and restless all the time. So this has been watched by the teachers for 2 weeks, and no difference. So at that time, the yogis were quite few. So Sayadaw says, Sayadaw and the other teachers too, they have to take care of the meditators in rotation. So when Sayadaw have to check on him, then though he was about to do walking meditation, he never fold his arm in front nor at the back, and also his eyes were looking here and there. So Sayadaw asked him, "Lay disciple, why do you come to do in this center?" So when Sayadaw asked that question, then he had a bit of bitter feeling, but he knew that Sayadaw asked only this question and left to pursue his work. So when Sayadaw asked him that question, he came to realize what he has to do. To come to the meditation center means to practice meditation. So as for a meditator, to become a real meditator, our duty is to focus our mind in the field of meditation, so much so that we have to note it precisely, attentively, and with due respect. So that man, about 60 years old, he realized what he has to do. So he trained himself, he disciplined himself, and he realized what he should do. So he practiced with due attentiveness and respect. So within 2 days, he got so many satisfying answers, and he got so many knowledges through his practice. So Sayadaw came to know that how wonderful he had changed to himself. Because one attained these satisfying answers because one is walking out in an attentive manner and thorough in the practice. If one is thoroughly practicing with due respect and attentiveness, then whatever the benefits that meditator has to gain, one will gain immediately. So that's why in the previous preaching of Sayadaw explained that he has said several times that this is the kind of Dhamma practice which is the easiest, which is the most natural of all. It is concise and it is very effective, and there will be the rapid attainment of the benefits in a short time. So that layman, after he had meditated for 2 days with due respect and intensely as he meditated, he came to report to Sayadaw that, "The teacher, at first when you asked me, I did have a bitter feeling, but later I came to realize why I am here, why I am in the meditation center." So that's why he knew the answer for himself, that I came here to do the meditation because I want to achieve from the Dhamma. He wants to get the benefit. So he did his work thoroughly. Because he did his work thoroughly, so he got the benefit within a short time. So Sayadaw explained that whenever Sayadaw reminds the yogis, at first maybe his saying may be harsh. This harsh saying is not a kind that because he wants to suppress the meditator. It is not that way at all. Because Sayadaw wants the meditator to have progress in the meditation. So that's why Sayadaw have to say so. Sayadaw says in the beginning, he has to treat the meditators with sugar-coated words at first. But if they cannot obey to these sugar-coated words, then he have to give directly the bitter words. By giving the bitter words mean it. As for one, when one is able to extinguish all the inner fires and attaining the peace, and that is the best kind of peace, and which is free or disconnected from any other disadvantages. So that's why Sayadaw explained that Sappha-dukkha vimosana. This dukkha means this is a suffering. This suffering is because we have this body, we have to succumb to any kind of bodily suffering. Because we have the mind, we have to succumb to any kind of mental suffering. And as we are aging day by day, we have to succumb to the process of aging. And at times we will succumb to the nature of sickness. And the time due come, we will succumb to the approaching death. So these are the series of suffering we have to undergo. And for as a lay people, as we are staying in the mundane field, all the social problems and social matters are after all the suffering, the endless suffering. But what we obtain from the worldly side is incomparable to the suffering what we have in the mundane field. So as for us, however we are facing with suffering, then to get some worldly wealth, we have to strive. But that strive is to earn with some kind of suffering to achieve the worldly wealth. And that wealth too, we cannot maintain or sustain. Because if the condition is favorable, then this can be lost, or this cannot attain in you anymore. So once this worldly wealth are disconnected from you, then that is the time you have to suffer again. So that's the worldly wealth or sukha that we have is because all these worldly sukha or the pleasantness from worldly thing is only when they exist we would have bliss or happiness. But when they are lost or that happiness is lost, then we lost it and we have to suffer it, and also we are in a stage of reversal condition. So that's why it is called viparinama dukkha. So if we are losing any kind of worldly bliss or happiness, then that is the time we will be like a monkey who is fall from holding the branch. So it will be like him. So as a meditator in our mind, Sayadaw says, this worldly bliss or sukha is not the real bliss. If we are trying to find the real bliss, which is free from any kind of disadvantages, then we need to find out which is the real bliss. This is the Dhamma bliss we have to search for. To attain the Dhamma bliss means we need to find an appropriate teacher, and in accordance with the teacher's guidance, we have to follow it. But this is not the kind of superficial matter. We have to take it in a serious matter and practice properly. Only then we are able to save ourselves from this different types of suffering from the world. So Sayadaw cited the Pali phrase that if you want to achieve the real bliss from the Dhamma line, you cannot achieve if your practice is slackened or sluggish, or if we are lazy, or if we are slow, or all these sluggishness and slacken these are the ones which cannot conduce you to attain the Dhamma bliss. To attain the Dhamma bliss means we have to do it firmly, with a strong determination, and do it in a rush manner of noting or observing, and that rushing meditation should be sustained and persistent. So only in that way we can achieve the Dhamma bliss. So as for a meditator, when we are striving in this meditation field, then the qualities within us may be small or insufficient. For example, like if the mental powers in us are not strong enough, or if our faith is very faint, or if our chanda or desire to do is weak, or if our mental powers of energy is not strong, and the mindfulness as well is not strong and energetic, and accumulation of samadhi is also small and faint, with all these small and weak mental powers, it is sure that we cannot achieve the Dhamma bliss. So when we are trying to find or to achieve the Dhamma bliss, which is really freeing ourselves from all the suffering, then we need to have a very strong united mental powers. And these strong united mental powers should be present not only for a moment, it should be sustained and present in us all along in the line of our practice. So that is the way Buddha have encouraged to all the beings if one wanted to achieve the Dhamma bliss. So Sayadaw has come to understand that, especially the people from advanced country, because they all have all the necessities and appliances, what they have to do, they just press the button and they have to depend on the machine or whatever, all the assistants are there. So, because of depending too much on these appliances, then they don't need to bring out the mental powers or the body strength. So because of too much of dependence on them, their life is very comfortable and at ease. But contrary to the worldly condition, when we come here to practice the Dhamma practice, we need to bring out all the mental powers as well the physical strength. But when we have to do this so, we are hesitated or we are drawn back. So we don't want to focus on these meditational objects properly. So Sayadaw reminds us that as much as we are not focusing with full strength what we should have, then if we wanted to keep ourselves at ease and comfort, just like in the worldly condition, then this is opposite to the worldly bliss, so we have to practice with diligence. So Sayadaw assumed that, although Sayadaw couldn't understand first, but now Sayadaw came to understand that because all along their life their life was so comfortable and at ease, that's why when they come here, they cannot change themselves all of a sudden. So in that way, Sayadaw knew it. So contrary to this, in our mind, we should have understand that all the worldly bliss that we attain from the mundane side or worldly side, these bliss are not the real bliss. They are connected with all the disadvantages, and there is no guarantee at all. The only bliss is the Dhamma bliss, which gave you a guarantee. So to attain this Dhamma bliss, we cannot go on with just dilly-dally type of dealing with this meditation. So that's why we have to pay the price, that is to practice with serious meditation. So to have a strong, united mental powers in the meditators, it is very important. If one have the strong, united, energetic mental powers are present in one, then that energy will give the essence of mental powers. So this is very similar to get the essence from food. From 6 types of taste, sweet, sour, bitter, salty, etc. Then from different types of food, as we digest it, we will get nutriments and essence of the food. When these essence and nutriments are, although the amount is very small, but they are very effective, just like the nutriments from food as well from vitamins from the food supplements. So if we are getting the essence of food, so to have a strong united mental powers in the meditators, it is very important. If one have the strong united energetic mental powers are present in one, then that energy will give the essence of mental powers. So this is very similar to get the essence from food. From 6 types of taste, sweet, sour, bitter, salty, etc. Then from different types of food, as we digest it, we will get nutriments and essence of the food. When these essence and nutriments are, although the amount is very small, but they are very effective, just like the nutriments from food as well from vitamins from the food supplements. So if we are getting the essence of these essence, will make the matters that are to arise as the new matters. Then the new matters that are going to arise are nourished by these essence of food, so they become a healthy and clean matters. So likewise, to have this powers, then to have this power in our body, whenever the old matters passes off, they are replaced by the new matters. For these new matters to be sharp and healthy and clean, then we need to put in these essence of food, then and with the food supplement as well, then we will have the powerful and fresh and healthy matters in us. So likewise, to have the essence or the mental powers in ourselves, just like vitamins A, Sarah stressed as vitamins A and B, etc., you have to get as a food supplement from the medicine. Just like that, we need to have the essence, to obtain the essence from our mental powers. That is called as the moja. The moja is the essence or the nutriments we will accumulate through Dhamma practice. So prior to our meditational practice, we need to have strong faith and strong desire. And these powers from our mind should be fresh and strong. And also in the line of our practice, to the meditational object, as we note, we should note it concurrently. We should note it with forcefully and plunging mind, and we have to note it in that manner with full force onto the object, concurrent and precise. If we can note it from moment to moment, then that is the moment we are having a strong power of momentary concentration. So these mental powers, if we can suffuse in our mind, these are the real essence of mental powers we are suffusing or instilling in our mind. So once our mental powers are strengthened, you will be even surprised to yourself to find out how your mind is so fresh and energetic and dynamic to pursue in this practice. So this is somewhat like once you fill in with the essence of food to your body, then the matters in your body are strong, healthy and fresh. Likewise, in our mind too, if the essence from our mental powers are suffusing in us, because these mental powers are so fresh and we are getting the essence, so we are accumulating these mental powers as fresh and energetic. So to accumulate this level, we need to be very attentive to pursue in this Dhamma practice. So it is very similar to add in or fill in with multivites for the benefit of our matter, it is very essential for us to fill in our mind with mental powers. So these mental powers are, as a united form, they also give you some other kind of strength. As well as an individual or as one, they also act in a different way with their powers. So to have this kind of mental powers as individual or as in united form, then without fail, to each and every second, we have to note and note as we have been guided. If we are able to note it in that way, our mind is not impure. Impure means it is pure. If that moment of purity is obtained in us, then there will be a sustained level of purification of mind. Only with that purification of mind, then we can enter or we will face with Santi Sukha. With the impure mind, we cannot enter to Santi Sukha. So that's why, by understanding that fact, to each and every occurrence, we have to note precisely, guarded with Sati, and note it in sustained and precise manner, and note it concurrently, and note it carefully and with due respect. So in that way, if we are able to note it time after time, then all the while our mind will be pure. If our mind is pure, to sustain this purity of mind, we have to be very careful while we are noting or observing on the object. So if we are very careful in our noting, we will have the purification of mind. So only with that purification of sustained mind, then we are able to grasp and note on all the object properly. So this is the important fact we have to bear in our mind. As for a person whose health is going down or ill, then he has to consult the doctor. So the doctor will investigate his illness, and he knows how to correct his illness. So to correct his illness, he will give the appropriate essence or the vitamins or whatever is needed, the doctor will prescribe him. So as a patient, he has to listen to the advice of the doctor, and if he is taking the medicine properly, then he will regain his health. So similarly, in our mind too, for our mind nourishment, as just like the essence of food, for the mind we need the essence of mental powers. These essence are like satta, that is the faith or confidence in Dhamma. If we know ourselves this faith is poor, then we need to raise it by understanding properly. And also with sanda, that is the desire to do, if we know our desire to do is poor, we need to raise it. And if our effort or viriya is little, then we need to raise it. Concerning with viriya or effort, Sayadaw explained that first of all, we need to have initial effort or application of effort at first. But whenever we do have any difficulty in the line of our Dhamma practice, we need to step up or boost up our viriya or effort in ourselves, just like you have to take the multivitamin for your physical health. So that's why for this viriya to develop in us, we must have first initial viriya or effort. Later on, we needed to step up or boost up whenever we face with difficulties. So if we are able to endow ourselves with all these mental qualities or powers, then our mind will become very clear in the practice. But because of the clarity is there, then your mind is already nourished. Once your mind is nourished, then your mental power is also energetic or dynamic. So in that way, you can pursue the line of Dhamma practice to attain the real bliss from this Dhamma practice. So just like one needs an essence for the physical fitness, we also need the essence of Dhamma or the mental powers in ourselves to pursue in this meditational practice. That is, Sayadaw reminds that we should have a strong faith or confidence or trust in the Dhamma. As well, we must have a very strong desire, even though when there are difficulties too, we must have this kind of strong desire too. And as for the effort too, not only the normal effort we should have, we must have accelerated or boosted up effort is needed when the time do come with difficulty. So in that way, if we can practice on, accordingly, there will be other mental powers too will be upbring in your mind. So in that way, at one time, you will have accomplishment and full strong mental powers in you. So that's why Sayadaw is encouraging that by letting us know all these facts, Sayadaw wants us to try very hard. Sayadaw explained that the life as we are here getting this life is, we are like a person who is surrounded by enemies. So whenever a condition or the beings are surrounded by enemies, then there is no security at all, and we are always in despair. So to guard ourselves from all the surrounded enemies, we needed to have a strong full force of Sati or mindfulness is essential. It must be present. And also in a numerous way, we need to have guardianship in our mind. So if we cannot prevent ourselves from the attack of enemies, then we will always succumb to the torturing from the enemies, and we will succumb to them. So Sayadaw says that just imagine if you cannot tame your verbal and deeds action, then what can happen? You have absence of mind. You cannot control your deeds and speech, as well you cannot control your mind. So what can happen? So for one, if there is no protection or prevention, that being who is surrounded by the enemies, he will be tortured or succumb to the torturing of the enemies. So likewise, in our mind too, if our mind is not prevented or protected, whenever the anger or aversion develop in us, without control, without absence of mindfulness, we will reach to the point of killing. Or if we are influenced by any kind of lobha or greed, then we will commit any kind of stealing, taking other people's property, or any kind of sexual misbehavior. So if we cannot control our deeds and speech, then in accordance with the defiled nature, for example, when we have to love or any attractable or any lovable object, we instantly develop greed. And whenever we meet with any hateful object, we surely develop anger or aversion. So these flow of the greed and anger or aversion are empowering in our mind endlessly. So these are accelerating in the power, and we will succumb to it. Not only greed and aversion, but also other enemies like conceit. For example, if you are praised for your good works or so, instantly you develop mana, conceit. Or because of certain things you hate to the others, you develop envy or jealousy, etc. There are numerous enemies surrounding to us. So as we succumb to the enemies without prevention, then we are sure to we will be killed by these enemies. So Sayadaw says that because we are still lucky to learn the teaching of the Lord Buddha, how to prevent ourselves or how to protect ourselves from the enemies of these defilements. So as for one whose defilements, these are the enemies within us, then if there is lackage of sati or mindfulness, then we will be attacked by these defilements. So to prevent or protect ourselves from these defilements, we have to note to all the present occurrences with sustained mind, and continuity of noting should be there. Sometimes while we are noting so, we may face with some kind of depression in ourselves. If there is depression in our mind, we need to encourage ourselves and uplift our mind. So to uplift our mind means we need to encourage in certain ways to note properly on this meditational object or awareness. So there must be concurrency to the meditational object with the immediate, without hesitation, noting on it and noting with strong force. Then as we are noting in that manner time after time, then because of long practice, we are able to keep fixed on the meditational object continuously. So if we cannot do it in that manner, our life is insecure, because we have no prevention or no guardianship, then we are insecure. So it is just like in the battlefield, if one is surrounded by the enemies, at least you need to prevent or defend yourself with some kind of guards. So likewise, to have some kind of guardianship in ourselves to the enemies of defilements, to spread as well together, we need to note it with precise noting and accurate noting, and note on it properly and with the piercing mind or plunging mind. But this way of noting too, if we just note it partially or just bit, then this is also not enough. The noting should be thoroughly covering on the object. It should be like cover up the whole of this object, as well spread over to the whole of the object, which is shown by the what is Patritava Pavadati. So if we are able to cover or spreading over onto the object properly with precise noting, accurate noting and concurrent noting, then that is with whole noting are spreading on the object, then that is the time we are having the guardianship. But we must remember that it is not a partial noting. As for one who do not want to be tortured by the enemies, we need to have guards, and these guards should be spread out to have a prevention and guardianship. So if we are unable to spread out with guardianship, then we will be attacked by the enemies and we will succumb to different types of suffering. We will have lots of suffering. So that's why for the beings who have to succumb to different types of suffering, Lord Buddha have expounded the way to escape from these suffering, and Lord Buddha expounded there's a place for liberation to escape from these suffering. Lord Buddha taught the way and point out the place where we would be liberated or escape from the suffering. So as for the Buddha's teaching, Buddha will only give the method or the teaching, but he cannot pull you to reach to the liberation or to the safety place. But this is the kind of Dhamma practice we need to rely on our own effort, and nobody can help you or nobody can do for you. That's why Sayadaw explained as Attahi Atano Minato. That is, Attahi Atano Nato. That is, we are the ones we have to depend on ourselves. So as we have to depend on ourselves, we cannot ask others to do for us. You won't achieve any benefit from others. You yourself have to do it or does it. So to escape from the attack of enemies, only Buddha gave the teaching or method. So if we are learning the method, then we cannot rely on others. So we cannot rely on others mean from the saying or whatever, we cannot rely on the others. So to rely on oneself is, first of all, we need to train ourselves. To train from seeing, hearing, etc., we need to culture our mind to become a civilized person in manners or in morality. So as we have to rely on ourselves, then we have to practice it or tame ourselves to become a civilized person. Other people cannot make you a civilized person. So that's why to become a cultured and civilized person means we need to observe sila, that is a morality, what we have to observe, and we need to abstain ourselves from what we have to abstain. And after observing the sila or morality, it is to be followed and practiced, followed by practicing satipatthana, that is this meditation practice. To each and every occurrences, we note it precisely with sati as guard. So if we can note it in continuous manner, then there are gross type of defilements, medium type of defilements, and the latent or potential type of defilements will be eradicated in accordance with the level of your practice. So this is the kind of saving yourself through your own effort. But no one can draw you up from the pool of suffering. So this is also not a wish. It is just by wishing you cannot gain it. You have to strive with your own practice or practical effort. So that's why Sayadaw explained, this is the kind of practice you have to rely on yourself. And as for the people who come from the advanced countries, from the rich countries, and if they want to eradicate the defilements or inner fire, then if they strive only with weak mental powers or so, then they cannot reach to the destination. So if they really want to escape from these attack of enemies, then we have to strive it like martyr. We have to strive with brave or courageous effort. So only then we will be able to save ourselves. So to save ourselves means we need to note on to the present occurrences, that so much so that as soon as the object of awareness occurred, our noting mind should be immediately noting on it with piercing mind and plunging mind, and that noting awareness should be spreading over so much so that it is secure, that the line of that meditation is secure, and no chance for the enemies or defilements to seep into your line of practice. So in that way, you have to suffuse yourself with noting power continuously. Defilements, then that mind is pure. If a mind is defiled or with the power of impurities, it cannot attain the purification, then that being is coarse or it is rough. But for the mind free from defilement is pure, and there is a purification in one. If there is a purification in one, then that makes that being become a civilized person. If you become a civilized person, then you become a pliant and meek person. If you become pliant and meek person, then you become an adorable one. So how wonderful it is, by observing the sila, you are disciplining or training yourself from body and speech, and you have already chained all the gross defilements to keep away at that time. And at the same time, if you are training with concentration power, with these three training of concentration or samadhi, you also tame your mind, and your mind is also freed from all the impurities. So with sila or morality, all the gross defilements or transgressional defilements are suppressed, And with the samadhi or concentration, medium type of defilements are also suppressed. So in that way, to each and every moment, with the training of morality and with the training of concentration, we are winning ourselves. So Sayadaw says, if you are winning yourself at that moment, not only you are at peace, but you bring goodnesses to your surrounding too. So that is like one blow, two shots. So Sayadaw says, this kind of training is the training which gave one to attain the real civilization. So as explained, the strong, powerful sati, or the steadfast mindfulness, as Sayadaw have also says that this is the kind of easiest, this is the surest, this is the clearest way of practice, this is the shortest way of practice. So this way of practicing to attain all the powers of steadfast mindfulness in one is, Sayadaw says, no one can practice except the noble people who wants to conquer oneself or who wants to win oneself. Only the noble people are able to take up this practice. So to these kind of people, Buddha also expounded that this way of practice is a practice that is done by only the noble people. So Sayadaw says, to follow the path of the noble people practice, we need to follow that this is the surest way, this is the shortest way to attain the achievement. So while we are having the chance and opportunity to do it, we have to practice it seriously in a methodical manner. That means to note it without fail even for a second, or without miss even for a second. Now, as Sayadaw have come to the conclusion of his talk, Sayadaw encouraged to all the yogis that while you are having a great opportunity, may you all be able to practice seriously to attain the surest and the narrowest and the noble practice.